everybody, I'm Tiffany, and today I am doing another book review. Whoop whoop! Yeah! I recently posted one about Jane Eyre, and I did a movie and book review combined. Well, the book I read it from had Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights in it. So, of course, what did I do? I read Wuthering Heights next. Now, I was debating really back and forth for quite a while because there are Wuthering Heights movies. There was a TV series with Tom Hardy, there was a movie with Ralph Fiennes, and there was one with Laurence Olivier way back when. But I wasn't really sure which one I was going to watch, and I was debating if I even wanted to watch the movie with it. Trust me, I love watching movies with stuff, but I don't know, I realized I hadn't done an individual book review, and there was just so much to talk about in this book. This would be like a 40-minute thing. So I decided not to watch the movie with it. I'm really sorry, but the next book I'm reading is actually Gone with the Wind, and that movie I haven't actually seen yet. So I'm going to be reading that and doing that movie review combined. But for right now, we're just going to be doing the book review on Wuthering Heights because I have so much to talk about. So Wuthering Heights, it was by Emily Bronte. It is a classic again, the Bronte sisters. It is a romance again. I'll give you some statistics for people who haven't read it. It got a 3.8 out of 5 for Goodreads. 3.8 is more, either you kind of like it or you don't. It's one of those type of books. And I can see why. I personally enjoyed it. I'd give it a chance, but I can see how a lot of people maybe not enjoy it as much as like Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre can kind of be more enjoyable a little bit. The characters are more fun in Jane Eyre. I'll give you a little bit of a description the best I can because it's kind of complicated. It basically follows the story of this group of people who live in this area. Wuthering Heights is one resident and Thrushcross Grange is the other residence. And there's a town called Gimmerton, but that's not as important because not a lot of stuff happens in Gimmerton. And it's basically about the residents there and their lives and the generation of what's happened to them, basically. I know that sounds kind of confusing. It's very interesting how the story is told. It was different than what I expected because it actually tells it from a perspective that wouldn't be the main character of the story. It tells it from a perspective of more of a side character, and I don't see that a whole lot in books. You do have to pay attention. They do switch narrators somewhat. It gets very meta. Oh, call people? Meta, get me, play within a play within a play within a play, that type of thing. Oak Hall is my school in Florida that I used to go to, and they're awesome. It goes from like a story within a story within a story, a bunch. So it kind of sometimes gets confusing who exactly is telling what story. Are we in the present? Are we in the past? What's happening? It's still really good. I suggest you give it a shot. Be patient with it. It's very interesting. I really enjoyed it. I think because I liked, oh, I almost dropped that. I think because I liked how complex it is. I mean, it's not like you can't understand it. Just the narrative in itself is very different from the usual type thing. That's really all I can tell you without spoiling you a ton. Go read this book, give it a shot. Also, if you want, go watch the movie and tell me how it is. I'll probably watch the movie eventually. I just didn't have time for this one, so I'm sorry. Sorry. Enjoy Wuthering Heights, the complex romance. Very complex romance. So bye, non-spoilery people. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you soon. Goodbye. Wuthering Heights. I gotta say, at the very beginning of this book, I was a little put off by it because the characters. You're first starting out with Mr. Lockwood, and this is very interesting because technically it's Lockwood telling you this entire story if you think about it. Mr. Lockwood relaying a story that somebody else told him type thing. Does that make sense? But the reason I was put off by this book is because you have your first interaction with Heathcliff and young Catherine and Hareton. Let's just say those characters are not fun whatsoever. You really despise them pretty quickly on. You're like, who is this group? What in the world is happening? Who are they? This is ridiculous. They treat Mr. Lockwood horribly. They're not fun. They're mean. And I just didn't like them. But of course, you know you're going to have everything to do with them. So I was starting this and I'm like, if these are my characters, I'm not gonna enjoy this very much. You meet the maid, Nellie, and you like her, but she goes and starts telling the story of Heathcliff and all these characters you just met. Oh, great. I'm gonna have to sit through a story about characters I absolutely hate. That was not appealing, but I went through it. What I did like about this book, and I like it when they do this a lot, is when you have a character, you don't really like them that much, and then they change it around on you. You actually start to tend to like them, and by the end you're like, oh, why'd they have to die, type thing. You know what I mean? Game of Thrones. The main two characters at the very beginning are Heathcliff and older Catherine. I didn't ever really like them that much. Or Hindley. The first generation of people, no. Let's just not deal with them. Heathcliff is absolutely annoying. He goes the opposite. Like, a lot of the characters, you hate them, then grow to love them. Heathcliff goes from kind of feeling bad for him to absolutely despising him, and he's a horrible person. He just got worse throughout this entire thing. And what kind of sucked, since I just finished reading Jane Eyre, and I just saw the movie, Michael Fassbender was stuck in my head, so he became Heathcliff, and I was like, Michael Fassbender, why are you such a bad dude in this book? This is not fun. Catherine, I don't know if you're really supposed to like Catherine. I kind of liked her as a child. Overall, I just didn't like older Catherine. I felt like she was stuck up. I felt like she felt everything had to be on her. She was horrible to her later husband, who I felt bad for. And I don't know if I was supposed to feel sad when she died. I was just kind of like, okay, she's dead. But I was kind of happy she was out of the book now. Though I was confused because I thought this whole book was going to be centered on Heathcliff and Catherine. And it kind of is, but I thought, you know, she'd at least survive the entire book. On all the other characters, I gained some sympathy for. Like Hindley. Hindley is horrible at the beginning. You don't like his wife. He becomes a drunk. He kind of attacks and terrorizes the kids. He's just a horrible person. But by the end, you kind of want him to do something to Heathcliff because you're done with Heathcliff. So you're kind of secretly cheering for Hindley to go all crazy on him. He almost does, but no. I felt kind of bad-ish for him at the very, very end. But other than that, I didn't like him. You see the trend here? The characters that I actually really did grow to like were the Lintons. The Lintons had the opposite effects of the other little group. And they started off kind of whiny and everything, but Edgar ends up being really, really sweet, and he ends up marrying Catherine, which was a dumb idea, by the way. He needs to get over her. He ended up being a really good guy, and it frustrated me because I feel like he was completely underappreciated in this book, which is what made me hate Catherine even more, because I'm like, girl, you have a perfect dude right there, and you're going for Heathcliff? Are you kidding me right now? I just felt really, really bad for him. I thought for some reason, because I thought, again, Catherine was going to last this whole entire thing. Edgar was going to die before Catherine. So it was kind of nice when Catherine died before Edgar. And I felt really sad for him, but I was glad she was gone. And I was like, you don't need her. You don't need her. You're okay. And I felt bad, really bad for his sister. Okay. Here's the thing. This book gives moments for Heathcliff to be redeemed. With Linton's sister. I thought, oh, maybe he'll fall in love with Edgar Linton's sister, and then everything will maybe be okay. No, he's the epitome of a jerk and just plays with her emotions and gets married to her still for completely selfish purposes. And she is stuck in Wuthering Heights all alone with no companions. I feel so bad for her in this. She was stupid for falling for him in the first place, but still, come on. Heathcliff, you suck. I'm sorry. You just suck. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna somehow transport into the book, and I'm gonna sit the girls down and be like, you can't fall in love with Heathcliff. Then none of this would have happened. Or if Catherine had married Heathcliff, can we just do that? They were kind of made for each other because they were both awful. So how about we just have them get married, and then everybody else will be safe, and we'll be happily ever after. Isn't that so easy? The younger generation, you really do like, I feel like. I really liked young Catherine. I did. She was such a nice, pleasant character compared to everybody else who's like really corrupt in this book. She's the light. She is something that is born out of absolute chaos and destruction and horribleness. And she is beautiful and awesome and has a wonderful personality. The other younger generation, you have Hareton. Hareton, I actually loved Hareton throughout this book. He can get kind of annoying, but you felt for him. His father was cuckoo. He's really sweet, and you get that young Catherine doesn't really like him. You feel for him because you can tell he really likes her, and he's trying to become book smart for her, and she's being so unappreciative and just insulting him. That's the only time I didn't really like her and I got upset with her. I was like, come on, give Hareton a chance. Be friends. You two would be great friends. Catherine needed to fall in love with him. She needed to. Now, you have Heathcliff's son, Linton. I'm not sure. I was 50-50. I feel like that character is one that he becomes very corrupt. You could tell there could have been good in him, but he was stuck with Heathcliff. And I feel like if he lived with the Lintons, then he would have actually grown up to be a really nice young lad. And I thought for a good period of time he would be a really nice person, because she does end up getting married to him, though he dies. He did end up getting annoying. They express how Heathcliff did stuff to him, like punished him and stuff, and that really made him scared and frightened and selfish. I couldn't really hate him necessarily. He was still really annoying, and I felt horrible for young Catherine, who was in love with him, but at the same time I was like, dude, I felt like there was potential in that character to be really nice, and he ended up being really corrupted and everything. So that's where I'm coming from more so. But it was very interesting having it from Nellie's perspective throughout the entire thing, basically, because she's the maid and she's there for everything that happens, but she is a side character on the grand scheme of things. Even though she's the one telling the story, if you looked at this story from a different perspective, she would be a side character that just happened to be there always. I'm glad they gave it to her though, because especially from the beginning of the book, you have such a bad opinion in everybody. It really helped having a new character's perspective instead of trying to get people to jump into Heathcliff's perspective. What really surprised me was how unimportant I felt like that Mr. Lockwood actually became. You get a sense that he does think young Catherine is very beautiful, and that he does like her, and he's a new character. She's a widow. I'm like, he's gonna end up with her, right? And then I was conflicted because I really actually wanted her and Hareton together, because I didn't know Mr. Lockwood that well. But I thought because Mr. Lockwood is the character you started with, but I thought he was going to connect with Catherine and have them two fall in love. And that didn't end up happening, actually. And she does end up falling in love with Hareton, which made me really happy. And they were going to get married, and that made me happy. I was really shocked at the end how Mr. Lockwood just really was super unimportant. Nothing against Mr. Lockwood. You really could have done without his character. Like, you didn't need his character insanely at all, really. He's just the character I felt like that enacts the conversation to tell you the story. Because I know there are characters like that, where they're just there for information to be revealed. I feel like he is that type of person. But that's basically all I really have to say about this. I hope you enjoyed this. I know I talked about the characters a lot, but I feel like I covered basically everything. I'm sorry I didn't watch the movie again. I'll watch it sometime eventually, and if I do, I'll probably do a compare and contrast, but it's gonna be a little while. Thank you for joining me today for this. If you haven't read it, give it a shot, or you can watch the movie. The books are usually better though, so check this out. Go give Wuthering Heights a chance. If you have any other book recommendations or movie recommendations, leave them in the comments below so that I can check them out and fall in love with them or hate them, depending, I don't know. I'll check them out, I'll do a review on them for you eventually, and I'll have fun. So leave suggestions below, because I love suggestions. Thank you for joining me today. Have a wonderful, fantabulous, spectacular day, night, whatever time of the day it is. And don't forget to be awesome. Alright, have a wonderful day. Goodbye.